Dr. Rebecca, what a pleasure to see you.
Yes, likewise. Thank you. Lovely to see you again.
Tell me more about how are you preparing at this moment for better results of the APEC Leaders Meeting?
You've got COP27, you've got ASEAN Summit, EAS Summit, you've got G20, and now we're culminating. You know, for us, it's bringing all the issues together and seeing how we can deliver and show that together we can make a difference. You know, and this year in APEC, I think we have been very successful in bringing the parties together. I said, like the leaders, and we'll be meeting for the first time in 4 years. And when the leaders meet, they will be issuing a very important document and a consensus document from APEC. And that, it's not just APEC, it's a coup also for Thailand, you know, to be able to do this during these challenging times.
It's very pleasantly surprising to me that you are talking about delivery. So delivery is a lot of responsibility. On the Bangkok goals, what is the current stage? I know you and your colleagues have been consulting with one another over the night, in fact, before you are coming to me today.
No, the Bangkok goals is to frame all the work that we are doing on the bio-circular green economy. It's so easy to talk about sustainable and inclusive growth, but what is it? How do you translate it into some tangible way of so people can relate to it, you know? I always say, how do you feel it on your skin, you know? So this is what is happening this year, that we're translating all these initiatives into some concrete action that we will take away for years to come. And more importantly, you know, it's always good to have action plans, visions, but how do you measure? How do you keep track of what you're doing? And that's that other aspect of what we've done this year. We are having in place a system, a mechanism to track all the initiatives. APEC does a lot for capacity building, technical assistance, sharing of best practices. All this is being done, but how do we compile it so that folks understand that this is all being done in one specific area to achieve one specific goal, which is sustainable and inclusive growth. And that's what we're doing.
It's great to see concrete results.
Absolutely,
it's absolutely important besides just slogans.
Yes, yeah.
Having said that though, there seems to be interesting competition going on. Is here when I come into APEC, even in this media center, I see there is a competition apparently going on between the theme of the world. Is it going to be rivalry, quote unquote, hardcore competition? Or is it going to be more cooperation and consultation? I see a competition between these two ideas. So what about your thoughts when preparing for the APEC Leaders Meeting?
We've got different ideological perspectives. Bring them together in a room, and this being able to meet in person is so important because really, you know, connections, human connections are so important for us to build trust. And that's one of the most valuable aspects of the meeting here. Leaders get an opportunity to meet, to hear each other. It's okay if we agree or disagree. It's okay to disagree, but to do it constructively. You know, when you talk of competition, but also constructive competition, you know, as has been recently spoken about at the bilateral.
Between China and the US.
That's right, absolutely. Very constructive, and that's what we bring to the table. APEC brings this, the opportunity to have those very candid conversations.
Right. Chinese President Xi Jinping has committed to the APEC Leaders Meeting. How do you look at the nature of China's input, and how is that going to serve the spirit that you just mentioned, Dr. Rebecca?
You know, China is an important trading partner for all of us. And over the years, there is opportunity for each of the economies to contribute to the well-being of the region as a whole. And so each of us has a role to play, regardless of whether you're a big economy or a small economy. But APEC then provides that opportunity for us to learn from each other, to share with each other how we are each managing the pandemic, managing the different challenges. So I think that's what's important. And to a large extent, our Chinese counterparts who have attended these meetings and discussions have been very constructive. And it's not just at this meeting, but across the year, the year you've seen different capacity building programs, whether it's about SMEs, whether it's about supply chains, organized by the different economies, including China, for us to provide us and our businesses, small businesses, an opportunity to learn from each other. So that's the value.
There are talks, at least in some media stories, suggesting that China's loss of market and business opportunities might be the gains of members of Southeast Asian countries, might be the gains of other members of the APEC. What do you make of, suggestions, naivety suggestions, shall I say, like this?
No, I think we have to look at what we've been able to achieve together. The Regional Comprehensive Economic Partnership, for example, is one important agreement where we have...
The RCEP.
Yes, RCEP, where we have the parties that have come together. And that agreement is important because it reinforces value chains, supply chains. And so this kind of agreements where we bring the different parties together and it's built into these agreements, not just market access, investment access, but also opportunity for us to build capacity among ourselves to help us grow together. And I think that's the value. So it's not about, it's not a zero-sum game. It's about using all the avenues that we have put in place to come up with these agreements so that we then benefit, our businesses benefit.
About the RCEP and of course the very tempting CPTPP, which China also applies. I know many countries in the Asia Pacific region also are very inspired of. What do you make of the transition from RCEP to CPTPP? What kind of visions in terms of trade are we looking at?
I think they're two distinct agreements, but they're not competing agreements. They're complementary. Why we have similar partners? CPTPP has, if Malaysia and various ASEAN economies are parties to CPTPP as well as RCEP. They're not competing in that, they're complementary, as I said. And for us in APEC, these are what we call pathways towards our bigger goal of the free trade area for the Asia Pacific. And if you recall at the briefing this afternoon, we talked about revitalizing, refreshing that conversation on FTAP. It actually feeds and there's synergies between what we're doing in FTAP, what's happening in CPTPP, and the other way around. Yes. Because there are issues that are discussed or aspects of CPTPP which will fit into the work that we want to do in FTAP. And we enrich each other. For example, you're looking at environment, you're looking at workers' rights, all these things are important. You're looking at competition, facilitating market access, looking at regulation, structural reform. All these are aspects of both the CPTPP, RCEP, and eventually the free trade area of the Asia Pacific. So it's looking at things from a more positive angle and more broadly how we can benefit from each of these agreements.
China has been talking about and suggesting to the international community, which is also welcomed by the United Nations, the Global Development Initiative. As we know, this region really focused a lot on development over the decades. So how do you see initiatives like this from different economies might contribute to your goals that you just mentioned?
For me, and that's the value of, again, I'm talking about the value of APEC, is the collaboration, the collaborative spirit. All these initiatives build on what we have already we've done in APEC or in ASEAN, just adding our engagement through RCEP or through the EAS. It's all about, at the end of the day, tapping into relationships that are already there, and building on it and doing it for the right reasons. That you want to support each other. You want to see growth in each of our economies. You want to make sure that it brings benefit. It's not zero sum. I'm putting in, so I gain and you lose. That's not the spirit of it. So all initiatives, I think at the end of the day, that has to be the driving force. environment, I always say this for investments, it is not just about environment impact assessments, but also social impact assessments. How will all these bring benefit to the people? At the end of the day, you must always have the people front and center. Yeah. You know?
On the other hand, we have seen this region being vibrantly developing, but some suggest there's still lack of direct communication constantly. For example, among our economies. Sometimes we talk through a third party or listen to each other only through others' interpretations. How do you see, Dr. Rebecca, that we can do better about that on this Asia-Pacific platform?
This is why our meeting this year is so significant, because it is this person-to-person interactions, direct communication.
In the eyes.
Yes, looking at each other, shaking hands, whatever it is, that matters. At the end of the day, this is one, the pandemic has taught us a lot of lessons, but this is one lesson, that we need each other. We need that as human beings, we need that physical contact. We need that person-to-person interactions so that we can clear the air and have better appreciation and understanding of where we're coming from.
So this is a platform for Asia Pacific, yet we see terminologies being invented, geopolitically, for example, about the other phrases to describe the region. How do you see this as the Secretary General of APEC?
It is about using them to complement each other. For me, it's not about the competition among these different groupings, but really how these different groupings can support each other. And some are just evolving, so we don't even, we haven't got a firm idea of where it's going. It will take time. So to take it in stride and wait for it to evolve, and the most important thing is to keep engaging. So you understand what's going to happen. So you understand where they're going, where they're coming from. I think that's important.
Many are very proud that we are having a women Secretary General for APEC. It's very important, many believe, because the nature of many women in the world is to create ambience for communication. Now, sitting in your chair in the great transition time, let me put it in such a diplomatic way, how is that, in a way, transform your job?
Well, the challenges are always there, and it doesn't. For me, it's a task, it's a challenge, it's a job that you do regardless of whether you're a man or a woman. Unfortunately, because you're a woman, the lenses in which you are assessed tend to be different. But most important thing for me or for any woman in positions like this is to ensure that we remain professional, that we remain competent in the way we manage issues, and to just be fair and just in everything that we do. I think that's what's important, and to be aware, be knowledgeable, keep learning, be sensitive to what's going on in your environment, so that then you make valuable contributions and important and rational contributions.
Finally, what do you think this APEC Leaders Meeting should be remembered as?
For me, it is a time for us to reconnect, for the leaders to reconnect after this 4 years of not being able to do so, and the focus on sustainable and inclusive growth. I think that's the key deliverable this year, and Thailand has done just that through the biocircular green, I think green, we'll have to keep stressing green, going forward. The model that Thailand has shared with us, and we've all collectively agreed that this is the way we want to go in future. That's what Thailand's legacy, and that's what the future of APEC will be about.
Dr. Rebecca, what a pleasure.
Always a pleasure.
Thank you so much.